attitude because I was, bonjour, Michel. Love watching this. Hello to my 3 people commenting and 10 people watching. Hello, my name is Jonathan. I am here back on the channel, back to live streaming. Oh, sorry, let me get my microphone on. That's what happens when you're going live. So, hi everyone. Hello to you, Kim. If you have any questions, much love from France. Vous avez des questions, tu peux poser des questions en français, or you can, if you have questions, you can also ask them in English. This won't be very much of a long live stream, but it will be the intent of basically announcing my cello camp in California the first week of August. This is the whole reason I'm just wanting to announce this. It's going to be the first week of August in Los Angeles, proper Los Angeles. Unfortunately, I don't have more details than that. It's the first week of August. And that's all I have at this moment. The precise location we are working on, but I will be in the Los Angeles area. I will be in Los Angeles the first week of August. So again, I've said that too many times. Maybe during the week, maybe during the weekend. So if you live in California, if you will be in Los Angeles, Southern California, Cello Coach is going to be there. I spend the weeks in Northern California prior to that and after that. But if you're in Southern California, you're certainly invited to come check us out. Me and Beth will be hosting the cello camp. And if you are unfamiliar with the cello camps, the way it goes is you show up, you're given music at the very beginning, and then we perform at the very end. We make a video, as you have seen here on the channel, in Adelaide, in Atlanta, in Sarasota, in Washington, D.C., all those different places. And we even had one last year in Wellfleet, which I've yet to publish. And that's the way it works. It's kind of intense. You get to meet me. You get to ask a bunch of questions. It's a whole day of cello and lots of fun. We start early. We end late. Lots of fun. So if any of you is hello, Rule, a long time watcher, first time live watcher. Okay, well, hello to Ruel, Rules. So yes, you are from California, as am I. Well, I'm living in France now, and I will be going to the Golden State. And actually, I do that every year, but I will be hosting a cello camp. Decided to make this happen. I will be there without my puppy this time. If any of you have gotten to know my puppy throughout these past year, she's sometimes a little too present here on my channel. So, okay, anything else I'd like to announce? Since this will be announced a little bit later, you know, lots of fun announcements. I'm really proud of this, and so I'm just going to talk about it right now because I'm just proud of it. You know, I'm just proud of it. So I have launched my website, cellocoach.com. A video later will be highlighting this. So, but this is my website. I'm very proud of this. I worked on it and I designed it with WordPress, and it's everything that you need to know about this channel. You can have the different playlists. Eventually, you'll be able to reserve lessons directly through the channel, pay for them, and you'll be able to get a seamless thing. But for now, we have the different playlists from my channel here. How to practice, that follows my system of fingerings, rhythm, bowing, dynamics, tempo, playing. So that's going to be flushed out. Contact me, of course, but I think I like to talk about this right here. On my channel and throughout all these years, you have probably noticed that I use specific scores. My scores, I spent hours and hours of working on. It's not this. This is just a scan of something else. This is not one of, a cello coach score. This right here is a cello coach score. And you see by my color-coded bracket system, which I'm going to be discussing slightly later today because I have some questions from my students about that. So if you've ever wanted to play one of my exact scores with my color-coded bracket system, you can certainly buy those exact scores here on cellocoach.com. For instance, here's the swan. And one thing you'll notice from my scores is that I use a very particular type of ancient bass clef. And you see my color-coded bracket system right there. That helps you understand where the positions are. And so you can download these scores. There's a lesson right there, and pay as you wish and get that soft copy sent to you immediately to your mailbox. You can also pick up my scale book, digital version, so no longer on music notes. If you want to purchase the arrangements that I make of actual scores that are under authorship, you'll have to go to musicnotes.com. And musicnotes.com is the website I use that sells all of the songs under authorship. So that's where I put like Wednesday, Painted Black, and that's where I put some Disney songs, the recent Kiss the Girl, my versions on that. Because if they get sued, then they get sued, not me. Sometimes they have usually they have the license for that. Sometimes they don't. And I am also selling my merchandise on my websites. So right here, this is the t-shirts that you have probably seen me wear many, many times. And these are the t-shirts that you can buy directly from me. I am not going to be making any more of these t-shirts. These are the vintage versions. You can certainly buy that one on the website. I don't have all the sizes, but I do have some left. And there are some really discounted ones because there's some irregularities, which I'll explain in a video later today. So those are the t-shirts and other things you might find on the channel. You'll notice that there's a web shop now open directly linked to my channel. Pretty proud of that as well through Spreadshop. And there's a lot more merchandise you get to them, and they handle all the shipping and payments and everything. So there you go. If you want to be proud of the fact that you play cello and you want to show the world and you want to support the channel, don't hesitate to go there and check out some of the merchandise. And I would appreciate any support. So those are the little announcements I have. Los Angeles area, cello camp, August 2023, first week. That's going to be happening. New website, cellocoach.com, which is very proud of. Very proud of my little website here. And also, oh yeah, spreadshop.com, web shop on the YouTube channel. Yeah. So, oh yes. So about this color-coded bracket system that I use, for instance, right here, we're in the suite number 2. If you have been able to purchase my most recent scale book, then you're probably, I'm going to pull up somebody that actually has it. There we go. In my scale book, here we go. I have this position color guide. And it comes up differently when you print out on printing, but these are the hex codes. Each of these correspond with a different position across the neck of the instrument. And they stop here in the 7th position. 7th position would be right here. And if you're unfamiliar with why we call these half, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, it's where your index finger falls on the note. So if you're playing an A major scale and you count the note, first occurring note, that's first position. The second occurring note is 2nd position, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And it works with both minor and major. So A minor, you would have the 2nd finger here, so that is the 2nd position. And A minor, you have the F natural here, and that's also the 5th position. Now I use these colors to specifically delineate where you need to play when it comes to this, and it really helps my students when they're learning something. I put it in there, and for any of you out there that are familiar with my system, it's I devised it so I wanted to create an easier way for people to read the music. And so when you see a bracket, I'll show you an example of this real quick. I think I have oh, here we go. So this is the most recent one I just showed you. You start here in the 4th position, and the way it goes is when you see a colored bracket, so maybe you should have that printed out. I'm doing this because one of my students is really demanding for this. And if you have any questions there, you can certainly ask questions live. So if you see the bracket color, that means while you are in that place, you're going to stay there. And when the bracket ends, you're not going to play in the first position. I mean, in that position, this one is the swanzo. It's the fourth. And then you don't see a colored bracket because it's in first position. And then you see here, it doesn't tell you the strings, but it tells you the position to the upper second, and then to the fourth position, so forth and so on. I'm going to show you a little more complicated song that is right here. So here's a good example of a song that I'm going to be making digital by George Golterman. If you're familiar with George Golterman, he is a fantastic pedagogue, and he wrote this song here. And it is a nocturne, and as you see, just in this first stave, we have the lower third, upper second, lower third, fourth, upper third, first. A lot of different shifting. Now, without any of that, you would just have fingerings. You don't have to play it that way, but to help you understand, this is why I'm doing this. So then you shift to the upper, excuse me, I'll zoom in right here. You start in whatever. Lower third is right here. And that is all. As you see, the bracket continued, even though you went across two strings, that stays in the lower third. One more time. And right here, I slid to the upper second. And you see a 1-1 slide. And remember, just for a rule, the upper second position, fingerings are suggestions, okay? And I kind of like the zone. And right here, you're having this. And then you see another bracket, all fourth position, with a black bar above. That is the bar technique right there. The blue is the fifth position. So you go right here, a very expanded fifth position, lower third, then first, and then going here to the lower third. Now these are fingerings and positions that I have deciphered and decided, this is pretty good. Sometimes you see in my music there's going to be color brackets and fingerings on the bottom, which means that you can play an optional fingering. So right here, instead of, that's a big jump. So I found sometimes I like this. And I really like the slide of the two. So I put those options there for you guys and my students. So that's really a really basic, I understand, I guess, presentation of the different color bracket system that I use. I don't know of any other cello teachers that do this, and the reason why I believe this trend, this should be something that's more used in music, is because we see in color. Now I don't use paper at all. I haven't used paper since 2011. I only use tablets, and the usage of paper is not only, in my opinion, wasteful, but it's old, and I'm turned toward the future, even though I do have a classic instrument, but it's modern made. And I don't believe that, since we see in color, why don't we see dynamically the music as well in colors? And there's so much more information that can be transferred when we use color. Some people say, oh, the score should have another distracting, and it takes away from it. I don't know what they're talking about. When films and television was in black and white and color came out, people were like, it's going to take away from the impact and the drama of the film. And then could you imagine us like, well, today you see something that's a black and white for, I don't know, for the mystique, but not you see in color. You would rather watch a movie or television show in color. Well, one day we're going to watch and play our music in color. There's no, I don't think that's just my personal opinion, okay? So don't lose your marbles because I'm really supportive of this, but you can just transfer so much more information. And about the colors that I use, these colors, I had a student that was very colorblind. If you're wondering why are some of these colors just so similar to one and another? And the reason being is I had a student, and he was a young man, a nice kid, but he was quite colorblind. He saw shades of gray and brown. And we went through my iPad at the time, and we found the colors that he could differentiate between the different shades of brown, different shades of gray, and contrasted them and put them up against each other. And he found that these exact colors he could see. And so if you're wondering, why does he use these particular colors? Well, that's because my old student that really couldn't see saw these shades. And that's how it got established as the Cello Coach Position Color Guide System. These are the exact colors. So if you're ever wondering as to what I do, those are the hex codes. You can program your printer to use them, and you can certainly expect other things, your iPad as well. If you ever want to, use the scores, those are the hex codes. And you can definitely make your score like mine. Yep, that's it. So, Michel, when was I going to buy from the famous t-shirts? Well, Michel, tu peux acheter les t-shirts sur mon site internet, mon propre site internet. Aussi, tu peux parler avec moi pendant notre prochaine leçon. On peut discuter le livraison and les détails pour les commandes. So yes, that's my student to speak to in French. Anyway, that's it. Anything else to talk about? Not really. Again, this is just going to be a really short live stream. It looks like we have Sudha Rao. Hello, Mr. Humphries. Right thumb bends outward. Try my best if I can. Please advise the correction. Will much appreciate an answer. Right thumb bends outward. I think we have a student or viewer asking about the thumb right here. The thumb bending outward, I guess more, not like this, but they bend outward like that, I'm going to presume. When you have a thumb that's much more flexible than mine, it bends outward, you need to curl it. You actually need to actively do this, because if you do this and you're holding the bow like this and your thumb is bending, you're going to cramp up this part of your hand, okay? So you need to use this thumb as a shelf where you put the bow on, okay? But always remember this, and I'm going to really make a case of this. It is, and people are going to lose their marbles when I say this, you don't hold the bow, you guide the bow. The only sport that represents that is the closest to how we engage the bow is the game of pool billiards. The only time when a billiards player is holding their stick, their pool stick, is when they're walking around the table. Same thing with the cello bow. The only time when you're holding it is when you're in between things. But when you're playing it, you drop it on the string, and it requires the interaction of the string. Hence, it's a bow. Otherwise, you're doing pizzicato. Sure, it comes off, but it's a temporary sort of grasping of the bow. You don't want to be like pushing and gripping it. You need to be guiding it. And I relate this to pool because the pool player then puts the stick down. If you look right here, it's on. He puts it down, or she puts it down, and then this becomes very loose. And that's the way you should interact with your bow. You're holding it, but you're guiding it, but it needs to be on the string. And so this idea, like I must hold my bow, no, you need to guide. And you can guide the bow with two fingers, only two fingers. The thumb there as a shelf, and the index finger controlling the trajectory. see that right there? What I'm doing? You can play your cello with 2 fingers. And recently I've been working so much on this one piece. I have a competition coming up the 22nd of July. My student is going, and when my student competes in a competition, I compete in a competition. I know it's a very important thing to me. So something's happening. I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to say, I'm going to do all messages. Oh, there you go. There's all messages. And so, this right here. Oh, there he is. Well, Noaz, I got one of my students on board. The whole beginning of this video, talking about the color-coded bracket system, that was for you, okay? So, that was for you. That was for you. Anyway, I'm talking about the bow hold for one of the viewers right now, using that thumb as a shelf and having it curled and preventing it to push that way. You know, you're going to cramp up your hand. You're going to cramp up your hand. The secret, not the secret, but the technique of playing long is to be as relaxed as possible. And if you ever like play and your bow falls out, that's because you're really relaxed. And you want to have that, but again, the idea that you hold the bow is incorrect. You guide the bow. The fingers are all there guiding the bow in a direction as if, again, you are playing pool. You're guiding the bow, but you're not controlling it and holding it and, like, you know, doing this and trying to hit the cue ball. You don't do that. Same thing this. You don't guide it, hold it, and then, because you get that bouncy bow. You let it sit on the string. You position it where the bow is like such. You position it flat. Again, I'm going to do this again. You see what I'm doing? I'm just holding the bow, and it's equalizing itself. I'm going to put it on the string exactly the way so the hairs face toward terra firma. The arm is above, and if you do this correctly, it should slide off. Here's a good example. See that? If it's too much one direction, I have to get my bow rehaired. If it's too much one direction, you roll forward. So that is a telltale sign you're doing correctly. If you can relax and it slides down. That's a really easy way of doing it. Some of my students also wonder about, well, how can I know when to shift? And this came out recently too, you are going to know how to shift, if you will, once you know the position and the options that are available in there. Until you know that, you're going to stay with what you know, which will be the positions you've already learned. And learning, of course, your scales and arpeggios in different positions was going to help you do that once you get understanding of this map on the instrument. Another thing about positions and particularly fingerings is that there's no harm, no foul in playing a position and or fingering in first position, because the whole point of fingering is to sound good. One of my students, I recently asked her to play the Baccarat with in first position. She's like, is that cheating? No, it's not cheating. It's just right. It just sounds good because you sound good. There's no purpose in playing a fingering in a position that you don't sound good. Get comfortable with a certain position with the fingering, and then you can then upgrade and do something else. That's super important. And going back to fingerings again, when you see fingerings in a score, you're going to take that as a suggestion, unless it's pedagogical music, like, you know, Dotsauer, or like Golterman, but also Romberg, you know, pedagogists that were cellists and also cello performers and composers. They have a particular reason why they're asking you to do those things. So when you learn, especially in my studio, I follow the Dresden school, and certainly that's something you want to do those fingerings. Good thing is Popper too. Popper is a really good example of a cellist that is the very last stage of the Dresden school, but he when he puts a fingering down, there's a purpose for Popper's etudes. And those are for etude, you know, specific, you know, things. And you have very pedantic etudes, and you have musical etudes, and so that's something you always want to consider as well. If you're learning something very pedantic, in other words, something in calling for positions, follow the etude as such. If you're learning a song, play it so it sounds good. That's super important that you learn that. So if you're playing in first position and it sounds good, then stay in first position. There's only one rule. Try to not play the open A held. You can pass through the open A, is fine. But when you play the open A, that's something that's not, you don't want to do. You don't want to play like hold the open A. Now, recently, I'm going to show you an example of one of my scores here, and actually, you haven't even seen this one because I haven't released it. This is Les Larmes de Jacqueline, and going back to my color-coded bracket system, since I have Nawaz with us. And I've made this an easy version, so you'll see this shortly for sale on my website, the version facile. And you see, again, suggestions with the colors and everything, but you don't have to do exactly that. But I'm going to bring our attention here to measure 56. Now, the version that I played here on the channel is shifts and does beautiful things in shifting, but this doesn't. This stays completely in a very accessible lower register. Again, if you don't see the fingering, then play it as such. Does the rule matter if you are playing, like, can you hold it open D, open G? Well, it depends on your instruments. So right here, I'm going to be playing this. It's an easy version. It's an easy version. If you want to play the A, if you want to do that, it's an easy version. That's the whole point about it. But then there's one place where if you're going to learn the easy version, which the video is coming up very shortly, continuing, and now this is measure 67. Again. Yes, those are a lot of A's right there, and I would consider that to be a held note. When A, it could be used with more expression, but if you have the opportunity to play something well with good tone and play at a different position, maybe out of tune without good tone, I would opt for the one where you sound good at doing it. That's very important that you go through that. Back to the score, as you see, there's all these colors. And when you see these different colors, again, it's telling you to play in these positions. And in my scores, when you don't see any fingerings, for instance, right here, after 128, there's really no fingerings. That is well, that's because you can play it as you wish. First position, anything. I left that open for interpretation. And sometimes I will really dictate something, for instance, at the very end. Oh, he's going on here. That's half position. You can also go. But this is an easy version, so you're going to do that. But the reason I like that, and if you notice is right here, it's like, well, cello coach, you could also do, you could do 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3 there. Yes, you could. But by shifting to the lower second position, your fourth finger is free, and it's just one half step closer to making that shift. And you want to travel the least amount of distance and the least amount of resistance in order to make your pieces sound as clear as possible. So that is I'm glad you think so. Glad you think it's a good way of thinking about positions. So sometimes, let's see if Now I'm going to show you something completely different. This right here it's a very old version, and I played this, I can't think 10 years ago. And this is one by Astor Piazzolla. And you can definitely play this in right here, and then you can shift back. But I found, see, these colors are kind of off. They're not exactly the colors. But when you look at a piece like this and you're able to, oh, wait a minute, that's cool to go. Oh, it's over here. And then here. Right here. So it helps you understand, like, okay, you're going to move there and you're going to stay there. And that's just why a good example. I thought I had my more modern color in this. I'm going to be covering this soon on the channel, Libertango by Astor Piazzolla. So that's another thing which, if you've ever heard of that guy, he's a really cool composer of I can't think of tango music. And the last example is right here. We have Tonight from West Side Story, which, if you're ever familiar with this right here, this is the actual score. It's not arranged, and you see this happening for everything's empty until you get to the second line here, and you have this right there. And the reason I find these fingerings and my color system, everything pretty valid, because you're not seeing something I came up with. I taught this to a student, and the student and me worked for some weeks on these fingerings and found that these work, and it works for her. It's probably going to work for you, because we really almost engineer these fingerings. So yeah, I'm inspired to play Tonight. And then I'm going to go. It works with every system in every song, and as long as you have the room to put it in there, the brackets work. And I really like it. And when I see a piece and I don't see my brackets in there and I don't see the fingerings in there, it doesn't mean that means I haven't made the music my own. I've got to see something in there. So when Cello Coach does something, you see something floating around online with color-coded brackets, that's me, especially if it's cello music. But I would love to know if anyone else does that. And yeah, that's why I use it. So if nobody has any questions, I want to say thank you to each and everyone who has watched this very short little live stream, about 40 minutes long. I'm going to log off in 2 minutes. I want to thank everyone for being supportive of me. I spent 75 days away from the channel. I had to work on some of my mental health. Some of you have basically saw my very public breakdown. And so, I realized now I realize how deeply I was in need of help. So I did spend some time away from the channel, and worked on my mental health, which is a continual treatment, and it continues to go. But I'm feeling better and happier to be playing music again, teaching music again, and working on what one of my subscribers said, my revenge. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that later, about what is going to be my revenge. So, yes, I'm really thankful to everybody that had watched those videos and had commented and shared their stories and emailed me. That the outpouring of support was really put things in perspective for me. So, but mental health is no joke. Mental health is no joke. It's something that you need to deal with, and my mental health is getting there. So back to the channel, back to publishing videos, talking about things that really make cello playing beautiful and happy. And there's going to be, of course, more content in the future, teaching all the stuff which I usually teach. That's all. So that is the 40th minute, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. C'est la soirée ici en France, so bonne soirée pour tout le monde qui habite en France, and good evening, good day, and good morning, and good night to everyone else in the world. Thank you. Yeah. Merci, Michel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and supporting my channel. Ciao, ciao.